Welcome to Super Showdowns, the ultimate destination for epic battles and legendary showdowns. Join us as we put iconic superheroes, villains, and mythological figures against each other in thrilling matches of strength, strategy, and skill. The stars over Midgard trembled, not with joy, not with awe, but with a silent dread, as if the cosmos itself sensed something approaching, something neither light nor darkness could contain. In the depths of Yggdrasil's shadow, Thor stood, alone, but not the Thor known to mortals, not the Avenger who once roared in mead halls or battled celestials in his youth. No, this was Rune King Thor, the ascended All-Father who had sacrificed both his eyes and his mortality to drink from. The well of Mimir, absorbing the very secrets of the cosmos. Runes glowed across his skin like ancient circuitry, pulsating with power far older than gods. He had not been seen for centuries, not by gods, not by mortals, not even by the omnipresent Watchers. For Thor had walked beyond time and torn apart fate itself. He had faced those who sit above in shadow, parasites who fed upon the belief of all gods and erased them from existence. But even gods must return. Especially when the balance of all realms tilted, something had cracked the barrier between dimensions, something golden and angry. In a remote sector of the multiverse where time pulsed like a heartbeat, a rupture bloomed, a wound in the skin of reality. From it emerged a being of impossible brightness, surrounded by a corona of blazing force. Not a man, not a god, but something that had once been both. Sentry, not the fractured mind of Robert Reynolds, not the chaotic dual persona of man and void. This was the one who remains, the final echo of a Sentry who had absorbed every version of himself across the multiverse. He had overcome fear, overcome death, and now stood as a singularity of pure will and molecular supremacy. He no longer walked, he descended, like a sun falling from the heavens. His arrival twisted the stars, bending planets out of orbit with his mere presence. Galactus turned his head. The living tribunal paused. Mid-judgment, eternity blinked. Sentry had come for one purpose. Thor of runes. His voice echoed not in the air, but in space itself, searing constellations with its echo. You killed destiny, and by doing so, you woke me. Thor opened his eye. The cosmos stirred behind it. I woke no one, he said, voice calm and final like a funeral bell. I ended chains. You are the echo of what was. An echo should fade. But Sentry did not fade. He advanced, unbound by space. Each step folded a galaxy behind him, elsewhere in the dream of the world tree. The Norns, the weavers of fate, sat before a loom that no longer moved. Its threads, severed by Thor's past actions, hung loose and lifeless. He returns, whispered Urd, the eldest. From the ashes of infinite selves, murmured Verdandi, and he brings correction, said Skuld, youngest and most afraid. What happens when fate no longer exists? Asked Skuld. The other two were silent. Back on Earth, the sky cracked like stained glass. The Avengers, now mostly scattered, aged or ascended, watched helplessly as golden tendrils of energy spread across the heavens like a second sun trying to devour the first. Storm clouds form not from weather, but from raw consequence. New York flickered between past and present, with echoes of 1942 bleeding into 2099. Dr. Strange emerged from the sanctum drenched in sweat. This is not
Hey you, don't just watch. Subscribe please.
magic. It is memory unraveling, and only one god ever dared tamper with that. Thor stood in a liminal realm, the space between Asgard and oblivion. He no longer wore armor. He no longer needed Mjolnir or even Stormbreaker. The runes flowed through his blood, and the Odin force bowed to his will. Sentry hovered above him now, radiating contempt and pity. I have no desire to fight you, Thor. We are two forces. We could reshape what remains, rewrite every lie. I have already rewritten fate, Thor replied. But I will not trade one tyranny for another. Sentry raised a single hand. With a flick of his finger, the moon collapsed. It wasn't destruction. It was reprogramming. Matter became memory. Memory became ash. You see, he said softly, creation is mine now. I am mercy. I am God. And I am the end of the storm. For a moment, silence. Then Thor took a single step forward. The ground. Beneath him reformed the moon, reversing Sentry's molecular attack with rune law, a command older than the laws of physics themselves. You are not the end of the storm, Thor said as the wounds on his body ignited with ancient fire. I am the storm that ends gods, and far beyond them, at the edge of the omniverse, beings of unknowable scale watched. The Beyonders paused their games. The Celestials tilted their heads. Even Oblivion smiled. Something more than a battle was brewing. This was not a clash of muscle or might. This was a war between what is remembered and what defines reality. Time fractured the moment they moved. There was no warning, no prelude. Only the instantaneous eruption of forces so vast that entire timelines shattered like stained glass under the weight of their clash. Sentry struck first, moving faster than perception, a blur of golden energy so pure that it rewrote the rules of space as he moved. Planets blinked out of existence in the wake of his acceleration. His punch landed squarely into Thor's chest, releasing a shockwave that ripped apart light itself, and for a moment, Thor stumbled. A rare thing. Sentry pressed forward, fists becoming hammers of sunfire. Every blow cracked the skies, creating temporary vacuums where the laws of nature refused to function. One strike sent Thor spiraling through dimensions. He crashed through the negative zone, then into the white-hot room, before stabilizing himself with a flicker of rune-wrought will. You hesitate, Sentry boomed, eyes like twin burning singularities. You think this is still the Thor who needed a hammer? I think, Thor replied, stepping back into this reality, that you fear what I have become. With that, Thor's hands surged with raw, living runes. They danced across his skin, forming ancient symbols that pulsed with universal command. He lifted one arm, and the sound of thunder was replaced by silence, a silence that devoured Sentry's next assault, mid-motion. The silence broke with a word, Gaga. Power. Thor whispered it, and the word became law. The runes expanded outward like a solar flare, not destroying, but rewriting. They latched onto Sentry's body, attempting to undo the perfection of his molecular form, to unravel the infinite selves that made him one. Sentry roared, his golden aura burning with rage and chaos. He ripped through the rune constructs, molecules, boiling and reassembling in defiance of Thor's magic. The void awakened inside him, a dark parasite clawing its way into the light. You cannot erase me, Sentry thundered. I have become everything. I am the equation. I defeated Molecule Man. I survived entropy. I am eternity. Thor flew toward him like a spear of judgment, rune trails flaring behind him. They collided in the upper stratosphere. The Earth stopped rotating for 2.3 seconds. Continents cracked. Oceans rose. The Watcher, Watu, closed his eye and wept. The battle had become more than fists. It was philosophy given form. Creation versus rewrite. Order versus overwhelming potential. Sentry began to absorb the surrounding matter, converting raw reality into a weapon. Mountains became blades, stars became chains, and time itself flowed backward in loops as he tried to overwhelm Thor with impossible geometry. But Rune King Thor was unmoved. With a roar that carried through all 9 realms, he called down the full force of the runes. Not a storm, not thunder, not even lightning, but purpose. Sentry flinched as his thoughts, usually a billion parallel lines, began to twist. Thor was rewriting his very being. For the first time, Sentry felt small, not physically, but cosmically. "I see now," Thor said, hovering above the torn battlefield. "You do not fight for peace. You fight to prove you still exist." And with that, Thor raised both arms. From the roots of Yggdrasil itself, a surge of primal energy flooded him. The power of every life, every death, every cycle of existence Thor had severed from destiny long ago. Sentry charged, his entire form, becoming an all-consuming void. Thor met him mid-charge. They collided one final time. No light, no sound, only a pulse. Across the universe, nothing happened, and then the void cracked. Sentry fell, his form disintegrating, not in destruction, but in release. The countless selves that had once fused into one now dispersed, free at last. From the endless burden of perfection, he looked up one final time, barely a whisper of light remaining. "Was I ever whole?" he asked. Thor knelt beside him. "You were, and you were not. But now, you may rest." And Sentry faded, gently, without violence. The sky stitched itself back together. The earth began to turn again. Far away, the Norns looked at their broken loom and saw a single golden thread. "New fate," Skuld whispered, "woven not by destiny, but by will." Rune King Thor stood alone once more. The battle was over, and though victorious, he did not smile. Because victory at this level always came with cost.